So now we're going to put a floor on top of our foundation. We should get into a little discussion here about what's referred to as level of detail. In other words, how many things are you going to actually model within your Revit project? Revit can be very, very detailed. We can model every screw, every nail, whatever it is that you want to model, you could model, but that might be time that you should be spending on something else. It's the carpenter's not going to look at the nails in the model to place them, and things like that. So there are things that you'll decide as you go to leave out of your model because it's not worth your time and energy. Floor systems are one of those things that you've got to decide if you want to spend the time doing it or not. What you're seeing on the screen are the two different ways of creating a floor in Revit. The one on the upper left, that is a floor. You find it on the Architecture tab, and it comes in with everything kind of included in one system. So if I look at the properties of this floor that I've got selected, I click on Edit Type, and then I click on Edit Structure, and I can see here that it includes oak flooring, plywood sheathing, and a wood 2x10 joist. So those are the three components that make up the floor itself. I may or may not want all of those components. I could, edit this, create something different, whatever. I'm going to click OK. But when it creates that floor, it just creates this big box, and it says, okay, all these things are included in that box. The other floor on the right, the lower right, that's actually made up of individual joists that I placed. So individual 2x10s, and then I would have to place individual sheets of plywood to be my subfloor, and then whatever finish you want on top or whatever. So that would be a lot more work to do that. And I actually placed this as two separate systems. So I've got one to the upper right and one to the lower right there. I placed them as two because I want to be able to have this overlap where the joists are next to each other. That should happen over a bearing wall in my basement. And so, there's a lot of work that would go into that. And I have not modeled the pressure treated sill plate that would be underneath this wood system, between the wood system and the concrete wall. So I'm going to take a little shortcut. I'm going to model using this kind of a floor, my big mass, my big box of a floor, and then we'll use some drafting lines or some detail lines to make it look like we've got a floor framing plan. I think we can do that a lot quicker than we can actually learn how to control beam systems and stuff like that. That's what this is called, is a beam system. So I think for your first Revit model, that's probably not the way to go. So we will switch back to our other model and pick it up from there. Okay, so I am back in my Pocomoke model, and I'm still looking at my south elevation. I don't want to look there anymore. I'm going to go ahead and close that view. And I actually want to go to the first floor view and place my first floor in that view. So at the top of my view window here, I have a tab that says first floor. I'm going to click on that. Notice that I can't actually see the foundation that I just built. That's because of my view depth. So the camera, so to speak, in Revit doesn't see below the level that I'm standing on. So I'm standing on the first floor, so it cannot see the basement that's below us. If I want to change that, I go into my properties and scroll down to where it says underlay. And on this top one, it says range base level, and the setting is none. Click in that box, click the drop down, and change that to basement floor, and click apply. Now I can see my foundation walls. So now I'll be able to create my floor using that. So I am going to go to the Architecture tab up at the top and click on Floor. And it popped up to be Floor Generic 12-inch. That is not what I want. So I'm going to click the drop down there and see if they have one that I do like. So I've got concrete, concrete, generic, wood 10-inch with ceramic tile, wood with wood, and a truss joist. So I'm going to start with this wood 10-inch with a wood finish, but I'm going to take the wood finish off of it because that's not the way we would actually build the floor. So I know it's going kind of back and forth here on level of detail, but let me go ahead and click on that. I'm going to click on Edit Type. And this time I might want to use that wood finish again sometime. So I'm going to hit the duplicate button here. And this time wood joist 10-inch subfloor. That's what I'm going to put in there. So then I just need to edit my structure to get rid of that wood finish that's included. So I click the edit button next to structure. And what I want to get rid of is this finished flooring, oak flooring that's 3/4 of an inch thick. So I click on the number 1 over here in the layers on the left, and then I can click the delete button in the window, and now that's gone. And so what I have left is plywood sheathing that's 3/4 of an inch thick, and a wood joist that's 9 1/4. That's the size of a 2x10. So we are good to go. I click OK down at the bottom of that window. And OK there. So now all I have to do is draw. I'm going to use a rectangle, see if this works. I'm going to use a rectangle. I'm going to start on that outside corner. I click once there, come to this outside corner in the lower right, click once there, and I believe that's all I need to check. And I click the green check mark up in the ribbon, and I'm going to have a floor. Pops up as blue because it's still selected. I'm going to click on the 3D view, and then I can just click someplace else or click escape twice. It'll deselect that floor. Now notice if I zoom in here, you're going to see that 1.5 inch gap that is left. That's where my pressure treated 2x6 would be filling that gap. That's one of those level of detail items that I'm not going to model. So just so you're aware. So now we have a floor. Let's move on to our next video, and we'll place our basement floor in that video.